Abraham had set out when the desert was cool, but now his eyes burned with dust and doubt. The paper-thin skin around his knuckles and knees was crimson red, like the inside of a goat. Little Isaac was choking on the dust that Abraham's feet sent up. He had dreamed for 100 years of seeing Isaac walk, of smelling his soft baby hair. And God had commanded him to kill this boy, this child of his old age. God had commanded. Abraham was determined not to let himself reconsider. God had commanded. God would, of course, provide a sacrifice, but even if he didn't, God had commanded.
Yaakov Tidal had left his briefcase under one of the pizza parlor's tables, and now he was trying to walk away as if nothing was wrong. Over his shoulder, he glanced through the window at children picking mushrooms off of pizzas. Children about to be sacrificed. He could hardly breathe, but he knew that this restaurant was sinful. Seating men and women together like that. These women and men touching each other, watching each other eat. They were making golden calves of each other. This is not how God meant for people to behave. This is not why the Lord brought the Jews back to Israel, to abandon their modesty, their decency, their fear of God. These people were the sinners. They were the radicals, the ones who thought their judgment was better than God's.
Scott Tiller started driving down to Wichita when it was still dark out. By the time he shot George Tiller, the baby killer,
one bullet through the eye,
the sun was up and getting hotter. It wasn't that Scott wanted to kill Tiller. Quite the opposite. Scott wanted to stop the violence. The genocide of thousands of babies slaughtered and ripped from their mothers' wombs. Scott was a good person. He did what was necessary. God had commanded.
Eric McDavid didn't believe in God, but he didn't need God to tell him what was right. He didn't need an outdated myth, an imaginary friend, to tell him that pollution was choking the earth. So Eric and his friends started making plans and bombs to target dams and fish hatcheries, cell phone towers and power stations. He was doing what was commanded of him. It wasn't what he wanted to do, but it wasn't what he wanted that mattered.
It was what he believed.
What matters is where your faith lies.
And how do you decide anything without faith?
If I had said no to God, what would have happened to my family?
Which one of us is a murderer? If God doesn't get to decide, then who does?
Every decision is dangerous. Every single decision is a sacrifice.
God will provide the sacrifice if you have faith, but you have to have faith.
You have to have faith. God has commanded.
Will you go left or will you go right?
God is still commanding.
Will you do what you have always done, or will you do something
radical?